A metal gate slams behind him. One last mechanical roar from a world that thinks it is finished with him. Robert Downey Jr. steps out into sunlight. No reporters, no cameras, no studio car waiting. Just air, just asphalt, just a man walking free, but not whole. He pauses, almost confused by the sky. Prison trains you to forget how big the world is. Now the horizon feels unreal. People who leave prison often talk about the first breath, the relief, the rush. Downey doesn't feel that. This isn't liberation. It is dislocation. He has no home, no contract, no credibility. Hollywood's golden prodigy has become something worse than unemployed. He is uninsurable. The phone that once rang non-stop is silent. Studios that once begged for meetings won't return a call. Even friends have quietly stepped back, afraid proximity might tarnish them. He walks down the street like a ghost among the living, a man recognized everywhere but wanted nowhere. And here lies the paradox. He is free, but he is not safe. The guards are gone, but the prison remains inside his brain, his bloodstream, his identity. Out here, there are no bars to blame, no routines to follow, no one to control him, just temptation, memory, the echo of a father's voice, the addict's hunger whispering, "Come back." Robert Downey Jr. survived the cage, but now he must face something far harder, the version of himself that put him there. Because the real sentence didn't end at Corcoran. The real sentence is this. The cell door opened, but the cage was still inside his head. This is the story of how a dead career, a damaged soul, and a disappearing man slowly crawled back toward life. Not through fame, not through force, but through awakening. Freedom didn't feel like a beginning. It felt like exile. Hollywood did not welcome Robert Downey Jr. back with open arms. It slammed the door, locked it, threw away the key. Studios used a single word to erase him: uninsurable. You can be brilliant, you can be famous, but we will not bet a single dollar on you. Executives who once praised him now wrote him off like a bad debt. Directors who once fought to cast him pretended not to know him. Agents stopped returning calls. His career wasn't paused, it was pronounced dead. At 36, Robert Downey Jr. found himself dependent on the mercy of others just to work. And mercy was in short supply. Woody Allen wanted him for a film called Melinda and Melinda. He fought for Robert, but the insurance company simply said no. They refused to underwrite the policy. Woody Allen, one of the biggest directors of the era, couldn't hire him. That was the reality. One man broke the silence, Mel Gibson. He didn't see a liability, he saw a soul worth rescuing. So when producers refused to hire Downey for the singing detective because the insurance company wouldn't back him, Gibson made a decision that bordered on reckless. He paid the bond himself. He literally wrote a check saying, "If he fails, blame me." It was charity delivered as faith. Not in Robert Downey Jr. the star, but in Robert Downey Jr. the human being. But here is what most people misunderstand. That rescue didn't feel triumphant. It was humiliating. Imagine being one of the greatest actors of your generation and needing a friend to financially vouch for your existence. Imagine being a grown man and the world treating you like a child who can't be trusted. This was not redemption. It was shame. His phone stayed mostly silent. Scripts stopped arriving. His name lived in back rooms where producers whispered it with a smirk. He blew it. He had everything and destroyed it. He'll relapse. They always relapse. Robert walked around with an invisible sentence stamped across his forehead: "Do not trust." And this is where people misunderstand recovery. Getting clean didn't give him his life back. It stripped him bare. Sobriety wasn't victory. It was exposure. Without the drug, there was no escape from memory, failure, or self-hatred. Hollywood thought he was fixed, clean, redeemed. They were wrong. Recovery is not a switch. It is a battlefield. 1 step forward, then 3 steps back. 2002 to 2003 was not Robert Downey Jr.'s comeback. It was his last war. Because here is the truth most myths hide. He did not get sober in prison. He did not get sober in rehab. He did not get sober because Hollywood rejected him. He got sober because he almost died again. The relapse wasn't loud. There were no headlines. Just a quiet slide back into the familiar embrace of chaos. Los Angeles nights. Driving the Pacific Coast Highway at speeds no mortal man should test. The ocean black and infinite beside him. The lines on the road blurring like moral boundaries. He later described it as, death was sitting in the passenger seat. He wasn't suicidal, not actively. He was indifferent. That is more dangerous. There is a unique terror in an addict who no longer cares if the story ends. Friends were gone. The industry was watching, waiting for the obituary. He was becoming the prophecy everyone predicted. Then something invisible shifted. Not epiphany, exhaustion. When rock bottom repeats, it stops being dramatic. It becomes boring. The drugs didn't numb anymore. They didn't thrill. They didn't save. They just kept him alive enough to die slowly. And that realization, the futility, the emptiness, is what drove him one evening to pull off the highway, park at a cliff overlooking the Pacific, and stare at the horizon long enough to feel the weight of his own insignificance. No applause, no witness, just a man confronting the truth. If I keep doing this, I disappear. This wasn't self-pity. It was mathematics, cause and effect. Rehab didn't break him. Prison didn't break him. This moment broke him. It didn't look like salvation. It looked like trash food in a parking lot. Robert Downey Jr. sits alone in his car overlooking the Pacific, the engine ticking. Salt wind pushing through the cracked window. A paper bag in his lap. Burger King. Not exactly a king's meal. He unwraps it. Grease stains his fingers. The smell is stale. He takes a bite, and it hits him. Not flavor. Disgust. A violent awareness. This is what my life tastes like. Cheap, processed, artificial. Survival masquerading as nourishment. He chews slowly, staring at nothing. And suddenly, every lie he has ever told himself starts collapsing. The illusion that he was managing it. The fantasy that he could bounce back. The arrogance that he was too talented to die. All unraveling over a bad burger. It sounds absurd, but addicts don't heal in grand revelations. They heal in ordinary moments that become unbearable. This moment was his. He reached into his pocket. Not for his phone, not for help, for his stash. Tiny baggies, the last remnants of the life he'd been clinging to. He walks to the shoreline. The wind is cold. The Pacific roars like judgment. No speeches, no tears, just a quiet act. He throws the drugs into the ocean. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't triumphant. It was resignation. The moment wasn't, I want to live. It was, I am exhausted with dying. That was the turning point. Not a Hollywood-style awakening, a subtle shift. Enough. Years later, he would call it the moment God reached through a fast food wrapper. But at the time, it was simpler. One man finally admitting defeat and choosing a different battlefield. People think the Burger King moment cured him. It didn't. Throwing drugs into the ocean didn't detox his brain. It didn't erase cravings. It didn't rebuild identity. It simply opened a door, and someone had to walk him through it. Enter Sifu Eric Oram. Not a therapist, not a celebrity guru. A Wing Chun master with the emotional patience of stone and the spiritual posture of a monk forged in fire. Robert Downey Jr. walks into his dojo, Twitching energy, restless mind, a man who could win Oscars but couldn't sit still with himself for 10 minutes. Eric doesn't shake his hand. He simply points to the wooden dummy, the Mukyan Jong, a silent opponent, a mirror that doesn't flatter. Hit. Downey strikes. Pain, awkwardness, confusion. Wing Chun is the opposite of addiction. Addiction is chaos. Wing Chun is structure. Addiction seeks escape. Wing Chun forces presence. In prison, Robert learned fear. In Wing Chun, he learned discipline. Day after day, he stood before the wooden man. Strike, breathe, focus. Strike, breathe, focus. No cameras, no applause, no identity. Just the slow rewiring of a broken brain. Eric didn't teach him to fight. He taught him to stand still, to listen to space, to meet resistance instead of fleeing from it. Downey once said Wing Chun was like meditation that hits back. Because the addiction didn't disappear, it became something he faced physically. He punched until his arms were numb. He balanced until his legs shook. He failed, then tried again. This wasn't a workout. It was penance. It was recovery disguised as combat training. Over months, something strange happened. The jitteriness faded. The panic attack slowed. The restless brain began to focus. Control returned. Not over Hollywood, not over career, over himself. Wing Chun was the first place since childhood where Robert Downey Jr. didn't perform. He belonged because he earned belonging. While his body was healing in the dojo, his soul needed a different kind of medicine. In 2004, silenced by Hollywood and struggling to find his voice, Robert Downey Jr. turned to the piano. Few people know this chapter. Before he put on the Iron Man suit, he recorded an album. He called it The Futurist. It wasn't a vanity project. It was therapy. He sat at the piano for hours, playing jazz chords, singing with a voice that was raspy, broken, and undeniably honest. Music became the space where he could process the trauma without acting. In acting, you pretend to be someone else. In music, you cannot hide. The lyrics he wrote during this time were haunting. He sang about broken glass, about waiting for rescue, about the smile he painted on to fool the world. Critics were surprised. The album was good. Not pop star good, but soulfully good. It sounded like a man singing from the bottom of a well, looking up at a circle of light. This period was crucial. It proved to him that he could create art without drugs. For 30 years he believed the lie, I need to be high to be brilliant. The futurist killed that lie. He created beauty out of sobriety. He realized that his talent wasn't in the chemical, it was in the man. Hollywood is full of people who fall in love with Robert Downey Jr. Producers, directors, journalists, co-stars. They romanticize the charisma, the wit, the mystery, the way he can make a room orbit around him. But in 2003, on the set of Gothica, he met the one person in Hollywood who didn't. Susan Levin, a producer. Organized, disciplined, type A intelligence wrapped in quiet steel. She didn't swoon when he joked. She didn't melt when he charmed. She didn't admire the chaos. She recognized the damage. Robert noticed her long before she noticed him. He tried flirting. She smiled politely. He asked her out. She declined. Because Susan wasn't impressed by fame. She was trained to smell instability from miles away, and Downey still reeked of it. But something had changed in him. For the first time, there was no manipulation, no seduction, no strategy. He simply showed up, clean, on time, focused, trying. Not to win her, but to become someone capable of being loved. And slowly, she saw it. Behind the wit was vulnerability. Behind the confidence was fear. Behind the addict was a man desperate to rebuild. She said yes. But Susan Levin was not a Hollywood fantasy. She was a boundary wrapped in love. So before things could deepen, she delivered the line that would rewrite his life. If we're going to be together, you cannot ever use again. Because I will not save you. I will leave. Not an ultimatum for drama, a truth. Susan was not Sarah Jessica Parker trying to hold him together. She refused to mother his chaos. She wasn't going to drown with him. And Robert Downey Jr., for the first time ever, believed the cost. He looked at her and felt something stronger than withdrawal, fear of losing her. So the addict in him did something new. He surrendered. He proposed. She said yes. They married in 2005. And Hollywood didn't know it yet, but Susan Levin was the miracle more powerful than rehab, prison, or fame. Because prisons punish you. Rehab treats you. But a partner who refuses to tolerate your destruction, that rewires you. There is a moment in every redemption story where the universe quietly tests you. Not with a grand opportunity, but with something small, almost dismissible. For Robert Downey Jr., that moment came in 2005. Not Iron Man, not Marvel, not a franchise. A strange little noir satire called Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. A movie few expected to matter. A film too quirky to be mainstream, too intelligent to be disposable. Director Shane Black saw something others didn't. Downey wasn't finished. His genius was just buried under debris. We needed to clear it away. So he cast him, not as a superhero, not as a prodigy, but as a thief pretending to be an actor, pretending to be a detective. A meta role perfect for a man who'd spent his life pretending to be okay. Walking onto that set felt different. No chaos, no late arrivals, no disappearing. He showed up present. Val Kilmer, his co-star, expected fragility. Instead, he witnessed rebirth. Kilmer said later, his timing was unreal. The rust wasn't there. It just burned away. What happened on that set wasn't performance. It was alignment. For the first time in more than a decade, Robert Downey Jr. wasn't fighting to stay sober. He was working, creating, laughing, improvising, engaging. The crew felt it. Hollywood did too. It was like watching someone learn to breathe again. Critics didn't just praise the film, they praised him. A reviewer wrote, "This isn't a comeback role. This is the proof he never lost it." Kiss Kiss Bang Bang didn't make him a superstar. It did something more important. It gave Hollywood permission to trust him again. Phone calls returned. Casting doors opened. Agents stopped whispering liability and started whispering, maybe, maybe. Downey didn't celebrate. He was cautious. Rebirth feels fragile at first, like holding fire in cupped hands. But destiny was already moving. In a warehouse in Burbank, a director named Jon Favreau was fighting tooth and nail for a name the studio kept rejecting. I want Robert Downey Jr. because he is Tony Stark. That battle would reshape modern cinema. But this chapter ends here. Not with the armor forged, but with the spark that proved he was ready to wear it.